and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I'm your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you, thank you. That's right. This is the show where everyone is a fan of something, and we have got something for every fan, including if you're a fan of the XFL, we've got more XFL talk coming your way. If you're a fan of the Indoor Football League, we have Indoor Football League talk coming your way. And then, of course, a special guest coming your way. They make their debut on the Fan Show. Very excited to have this special guest. Turns out they're a fan of the Fan Show. So, of course, I am obliged to have them on the Fan Show. You guys are going to get a great interview. You're going to get great headlines, great news. We're going to roll right through Thursday. I'll go over week 2 of the XFL and give my thoughts. I mean, after 1 week of new football, I don't know what the expectations are except for the teams that lost would probably like to win. And the teams that won probably want to win again. I mean, that's really what sums it up. So I guess, you know, what it all boils down to is how badly do you want to win? You know, is this truly development for your players, or are you trying to put out a quality product on the field? And speaking of quality products, Seattle may be onto something here. We're going to talk about that also. And the 10th annual, that's right, Roman numeral X, Super Bowl of all things rock and roll is up and rolling, rocking and rolling right now, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the headlines, but please join the conversation. Today's question is going to be, you know, what your expectations are going into week 2 of the XFL. Will you watch? If you watched last weekend, will you watch this weekend? If you didn't last weekend, will you watch this weekend or not? And if not, why? Why would you watch last weekend and not this weekend? I feel like this is a product that it can only get better. If you thought it was god-awful, it can only get better now. And then, of course, the countdown to the IFL regular season rages on. So I think that means that without further ado or any more delay, that we need to get to today's headlines. Headlines, of course, are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. I was just on their Instagram today. I was looking through. I was like, let's see what all they've got. And I not only was blown away with everything that they've come up with since I was in Spokane and since moved to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but just all the things that they had done prior. Like, there was a lot of stuff. I mean, because Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, the feed is algorithmed to show you what you have liked and interacted with the most. So sometimes if you're following or liking a lot of stuff, it can get kind of lost in the confusion. You may not see stuff like that pop up right away, so you kind of have to go and hunt it down. And I went and I looked. Great stuff coming out of Dynamite Enterprises. Ethan doing amazing work, done a lot of stuff for me here at the Fan Show. Some of our shirts, which we are doing kind of a clearancey thing with shirts right now. I've got some miscellaneous sizes left over from both the original Fan Show logo that you see down in the corner over there and the robotics division, which was one that I made a bulk order of and took down to BattleBots last year, and they were pretty popular. I've seen some BattleBots guys walking around with those. So anyway, if you need something customized, if you need some apparel, marketing material, or promotional or otherwise, hit them up. Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com. Visit their Instagram, Dynamite Enterprises, and hit them up. Get a quote because, like I said, they really do fantastic work. And I think that if you're in the Spokane area or not, they can probably do something especially for you. So the big story today is the XFL. And, you know, it was really... look, I'm the eternal optimist. You guys know that. I call myself that every episode because I can't be the pessimist. I really can't. It bugs me when people are pessimistic about things. It really does. I have hope for the XFL, and I think that people need to look at it as something new, something different. They need to be aware that this is not meant to be a developmental league for the NFL, and it's not meant to be a cookie cutter of the AAF. It's not meant to be a spring league. It's really meant to be its own entity. That's what it was meant to be the first go round, and what it is meant to be now. So I think that you have to have an open mind with this kind of thing. Can we agree on that? That when you look at the league like the XFL and you see the failures of its first version, a decade ago, plus you look at the failures of NFL Europe, the failures of the AAF, the failure, I don't think you could say that the Spring League has failed by any means, but the failure of the Arena Football League and other leagues like it, that they don't label themselves as developmental, but that's how we treat them. Fans of the NFL treat anything that isn't as developmental or second chance for the NFL. Even the CFL, which I think if I'm the CFL, I would be offended by that. I don't think CFL is developmental at all. It's Canadian. It's Canadians. It's the Canadians Football League, but it's Canada's NFL is what the CFL is. And they take it very seriously. I don't think that it's meant to be looked at as developmental for the NFL. I think guys that get an opportunity with the CFL should be very happy about that. And they should appreciate their time in the CFL, because you are a professional athlete. You are getting paid as such. And it might not be NFL money, but my God, like, what sport other than baseball and basketball are athletes making NFL money? And I know that there's been those comparisons for years now about how much baseball players make in comparison to how much NBA and NFL players make. And, the argument that football players put their bodies on the line more than NBA and baseball players do. But, I mean, look, it makes you want to be a baseball player knowing how much they get paid, and you could not have to play every single game because they play a lot of games. The NFL, though, if you want to get your bonuses, your incentives, you got to play just about every snap of every game. So there's a little discrepancy there, but I have digressed from my point. My point is that the Canadian Football League is still professional football. You are considered a professional athlete. You're being paid as a professional. And I don't like people that look down on it. Just like I don't like people that look down on the AFL when it was around, rest in peace, or the IFL, and now the XFL. I don't like it. It was there was a post today that I'm actually going to post that I stole from a buddy of mine on his story that says the number of teams in minor leagues for each sport, and how baseball has 37 and basketball has 40, and I think hockey has a bunch too. And then for football, XFL, CFL, Indoor League, AFL, whatever, all combined don't even have that many teams. The fact that the NCAA has such a stranglehold on the NFL really should make your stomach churn, because it is sickening. And I understand career life expectancy for football not nearly as long as it is for baseball and basketball. But the fact that they will tell you who's going to be the next big thing, and whether you like it or not, and then when they go to the next level and they maybe get dealt a bad hand, then they're labeled a bust if they don't perform well that first year out. And then they have to spend their time churning in the CFL, leagues like the XFL, IFL, trying to get back, when if they had a step in between college and the pros, you might not see that turnover. You might see careers last longer, but there's too much money in college football. There just is. Matt says the problem is some people are NFL or nothing. I agree 100%, and that's sad. It is. It's very sad. I see Matt, along with Nick, Dustin, and Philip, have joined me on the live stream on Facebook.com. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, fellas. Matt also says, and mistakenly call themselves football fans. That's why when Kurt Warner was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I said, in all reality, if you look at all the guys that currently occupy the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he's really the only one that is deserving to be called a Pro Football Hall of Famer, because he did it all, man. He's had stints in NFL Europe. He was an Iowa Barnstormer for the Arena Football League. I mean, he was a man who silenced doubters, and through everything that they tell us is how it's supposed to be against the wall, and it shattered. And that is why I love Kurt Warner. I really do. The man haunted the NFC West for a while, both with the Cardinals and the Rams. And as a Niners fan, that sucked. But I appreciated and respected what he meant to the sport. And I appreciate and respect what he means for the sport now as a Hall of Famer for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I mean, you tell me if there's another guy out there with enough accolades, or the accolades like Kurt Warner. I'm more than happy to compare and contrast, but you have these guys that have spent, 8 years only in the NFL. That's it. They could have even been undrafted free agents that maybe didn't play a whole lot of college ball. And I know it's not the Collegiate Hall of Fame. They have their own Hall of Fame. But my point is that, their only action, their only football playing is in the NFL. So I think that when you talk about Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's a joke because it's the NFL Hall of Fame. That's what it is. But good on Kurt Warner and the other Hall of Fame inductees. Obviously, they all deserve to be there. They really do. They have done amazing things for the sports. I do feel like they kind of get a little overzealous with the inductees, but that's a conversation for another time. Let's see here. So we have 24 days until 2020 IFL season kickoff. Very, very exciting. We are at the 31-day mark for the Sioux Falls Storm. Very exciting for me. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett reinstated. I just realized it says Brown defensive end Myles Garrett. Oh, boy. Anyway, Browns defensive end Myles Garrett has been reinstated, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's one of those things where I don't think he should have been banished from the league for forever, but I think what it comes down to is that they're looking at it from he apologized and did everything that he was asked to do to be back on the good graces of the NFL, and so now they're going to reinstate him. Week 2 of the XFL is this weekend. New York at DC, that's Saturday, 2 Eastern. Tampa Bay at Seattle, Saturday, 5 Eastern. Dallas at LA, that is Sunday, 3 Eastern. And St. Louis at Houston, Sunday at 6 Eastern. The thing about Seattle is that there was a post made today that said Seattle had to, on Tuesday's show, I shared with you the press release that said that they had to open up additional seating and sell more tickets because there was a higher demand for them after they lost week 1. And now they're looking at possibly selling as many as 30,000 tickets. The average, I say again, the average ticket sales for the home teams from last weekend, 17,000. 17,000 butts in seats, and Seattle might double that. It is a great sports town. Seattle really is. I have said this before, and I will say it again because I know that when it comes to Seattle and what have you, that I can be a little bitter. I can be a little biased because I'm a 49ers fan. But look, I can put things like that aside to acknowledge and recognize that they are a great sports town, and they are. They really, really are. So Seattle's a great sports town. It's been on the bad side of some luck. The Mariners losing a basketball team. Now they get an XFL team. They get a hockey team. I still find it interesting that so many Seattle fans say that, when I ask the question, if you could trade the Sonics for the Mariners when the Sonics moved to Oklahoma City, would you? And they say no. Blows my mind because the Sonics, even then, had a championship. And it was before the Seahawks had a championship, before the Sounders had a championship. They were the only Seattle team with a championship. And so for people to say that they would still want to have their baseball team that has never even been to a championship blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. Let's see here. Matt says Flutie played in Canada for a while, not in the Hall of Fame, though. I think Flutie should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm actually surprised that he's not, but then again, I remember that being a conversation. Flutie should be in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he did play in Canada for a while, and so Pro Football Hall of Fame, obviously, he would be right up there in the realm of Kurt Warner. So week 2, I think Seattle will get the win, and not just because it's against Tampa Bay. I think they're going to have a really good crowd, obviously, if they're looking at selling possibly 30,000 tickets. So the crowd will be in it. I think Jim Zorn is going to make some adjustments, both offensively and defensively. In fact, former Spokane Empire lineman Brandon Haskins has gotten the call to return to the Seattle Dragons, so he will play this weekend, and then Ernesto Lacayo is still there. So I think Seattle will get a win, and it'll be good for them. It'll be good for the city. It'll be good for the sport. And then as far as the other games, those are all tough because Dallas plays L.A. I could see this going either way. Obviously, if L.A. has already fired their defensive coordinator, then I guess the only way to go is up for them defensively. But Dallas offensively didn't even look very good, which is why it surprises me even more. If you saw the schedule, you saw that outcome, you'd think, well, maybe we can give it one more week, see if we can get away with it. But clearly L.A., who has struggled with its sports teams as of late, is probably looking for any spark of hope, even if it's in the XFL. And then, of course, New York and D.C., somebody's got to lose. So we're going to lose one of our undefeated teams. At the end of the day, we will only have, at max, two undefeated teams. D.C. and New York, I think, is going to be one of those interesting games, and it should be a really good game. I believe it will be. I'm trying to think if was anything else that I wanted to mention on that note. But regardless, what was I going to say? I'm going to bring it up right now because I wanted to have it right with me. But your thoughts on Browns defensive end Myles Garrett being reinstated? Do you think that's wrong? Do you think that's right? I don't care. I don't really have an opinion. I think he did his time, and a life ban from the league just seems a little excessive. But I would have him on a short leash. I would have him on a very, 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 very short leash moving forward. Maybe have him do counseling, mandatory counseling. I don't know. There's got to be more to it than just bringing him back after so long. But it's good that he's back and getting a second chance. Okay, so anyway, New York, D.C., going to be a good game. They're both 1-0. Tampa Bay and Seattle are both 0-1, so somebody obviously has to win that one. Dallas and L.A., they're both winless, so somebody has to win that one. And then St. Louis, Houston, they're both undefeated. Wow, so we're only going to have, at most, 2 undefeated teams left. And then we might not have any undefeated teams left, at most 2 undefeated teams because the teams that have won play each other. And then we're going to have teams at most that are 0-2. So there's a few teams right now that are like, yeah, let's get it back to 500. And then there's 4 other teams that are like, yeah, let's get it to 2-0. And it won't happen this week. And that's crazy how that worked out, didn't it? I think that when it comes to the New York game, I like DC's defense. I don't like their offense. I like DC's defense, but not their offense. I think Cardale Jones is obviously a suitable quarterback for the job, but he did not wow me in that game. It was their special teams and defense that did it for Seattle. And, he moved the ball, he made plays, but I think if you take away that blocked punt for a touchdown and that pick six, either of them, not even necessarily both, I think you take away either of them, and Seattle is winning that game, maybe, but they're in it for sure, regardless. So their defense is good. Their offense did not wow me. New York, I don't know much about their offense. That was one of the games that I didn't watch, but I do know that they are obviously 1-0 for a reason. I think they're a pretty solid group. St. Louis, I think, is a very good team. Houston is probably the best team in the league right now. And I think next to them might be St. Louis. So you've got the top two teams that are competing against each other, both 1-0. And then you've got the next best two teams, 1-0, competing against each other. So I think it goes Houston, St. Louis, D.C., New York, maybe. And then you have, I think, Seattle, Dallas, L.A., Tampa Bay. That's my thoughts on it. So New York and D.C. should be a good game. I think that because D.C. is at home again, they might get it. I don't know. It depends on New York's offense against that defense. So I'm going to go with D.C. because I like their defense. I'm a pro defensive guy. I'm going to go with Seattle, obviously, because I'm a Dragons fan. And then L.A. versus Dallas. Dallas. God, I really pick a Dallas team. And then St. Louis versus Houston. I think that one is going to be pretty good as well. So, we'll see how that one works out. But as of right now, it can only get better. If you're somebody that is a fan of the XFL, then obviously you're excited, and we don't have a whole lot more to try to convince you to watch. But if you were not sold on it, I don't know if there's anything that's gonna sell you on it. I really don't. I don't think if you were a pessimist looking at the XFL, I don't think there's really anything that people can do to tell you, to convince you that, hey, you guys should totally check this thing out. But it is what it is. The Super Bowl of all things rock and roll, as I mentioned, is up and running, and it's pretty awesome. It was an idea that I had 10 years ago because this is the 10th one. And what it is it's a 64-seed tournament bracket single elimination. And you have the rounds, you have the matchups. And it started out just me going through my iTunes artists and playlists and just picking bands that I liked. And I put it up on Facebook, and I said, hey, if these bands were in a tournament, like, how do you feel about this and this? And people really got into it, and it was a lot of fun. And so then, obviously, like anything over time, when you start with an idea, that idea becomes more and more clear. So now we have 4 divisions: rock division, classic rock division, the pop punk rock division, and then, of course, the alternative rock division. A band from the alternative rock division has never won the championship before in its 10 years. Weezer comes close every year, hasn't won it. Queen won its 3rd championship last year, and they are now back-to-back champions, looking for a three-peat. And they tied the Foo Fighters for the most championships, who also have 3. And Blink-182 actually has 2 championships. They were the first ever champion. And then Rush has 1 championship. That was a weird year. Metallica finds themselves in the Final Four probably every single year, but they have not won a single championship. They either get knocked out by Queen or somebody else. And I try to switch it up as far as what, the East and the West, what divisions go where. But it's fun. It's just something fun to do. So go to my Twitter @FanShowOfficial and check it out. It's a lot of fun, and go vote. The voting for the pop punk rock division is happening right now, and there's a few hours left in that. And let's see, happy birthday, Randy Moss. And BattleBots tickets for their live tapings go on sale tomorrow. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. I don't celebrate. I don't. The missus and I, we celebrate on Valentine's Day, which means that February 15th, we go out to fancy restaurants, and there's no wait, no reservations needed. We buy up chocolates and candies at 75% off, and I always get her a very obscure stuffed animal, because on the 15th, 75% off, but there's always the oddball ones that are kind of left. So it's our little tradition. There's no rule that says that you have to celebrate Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day. It's really just a whatever holiday. So we will celebrate on the 15th with Motion City Soundtrack and Le Champion, Adam Lampert in Minneapolis. So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you guys are looking for a way to mix up your love life, your relationship, try on Valentine's Day. February 15th, okay? It's fantastic. It really is a lot of fun. So that leads us to tonight's special guest. I don't want to keep you waiting. It was a very fun conversation. So without further ado or any more delay, I give you Coach Kurt Bryan of the Oakland Panthers. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now, making his debut on the Fan Show, is the head coach of the new Oakland Panthers out of the Bay Area. He is Coach Kurt Bryan. Coach, welcome. How you doing?
Good, Richard. Thanks so much for having me. I'm a big fan of your show and excited for the 2020 season.
You know, that has been, well, first, thank you for the compliment. I do appreciate that. It's always great to have fans and have them come on the show, even if they are coaches. But you mentioned how excited you are for the 2020 season, and I must say that has been pretty much the theme. Everyone I've talked to is very excited for one reason or another. What's other than being the head coach of an expansion team and stepping out onto that turf for the first time, about a month from now, what's the most exciting thing for you?
That's a great question. I'd say number one is keeping pro football in Oakland now that the Raiders' bags are packed and they're moving to Las Vegas forever, at least in our lifetime, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's number one is keeping pro football in Oakland. And the players, the fans, and I'm a fan, obviously. I grew up a Raider fan, and now my favorite team is the Oakland Panthers, of course. And, that's number one. And after that, of course, being a pro head coach in a place where you grew up, not having to move your family to become a pro head coach, that's a dream come true.
Absolutely. It sounds like a perfect fit for you, which brings me to my next question now that you mentioned it. For the listeners that don't know of the Oakland Panthers or your staff, what is your background like? Where do you come from in the mix of everything that is the 2020 IFL season?
Sure. Born and raised, in the Bay Area. Well, I was born in L.A. when I was, born, obviously, and then mom moved through there and we ended up in the Bay Area, me and my twin brother, and a high school athlete, played a little bit of semi-pro baseball, but really loved coaching. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to organize games and do things. Just fell in love with it. And then started as an intern at a place called Chico State University, and then became the offensive coordinator at my alma mater, Piedmont High School, and then became the head coach there twice. And the second time I was the head coach there, we created something called the A11 offense, which features fully interchangeable players on offense regardless of jersey number. Mm-hmm. And coached at Menlo College and St. Mary's College and a few other places. And then this IFL opportunity came about, and it was a really good fit on many fronts.
Yeah, I like the name. I like the logo. I think you guys have definitely put your best foot forward. I met your director of player personnel down at the College Gridiron Showcase, and he's obviously a fan of the sport. He was very taken back by everything as far as what you guys are in for this first season. I'm very excited to see the kind of product that you put out there, which is going to be March 14th, your guys' first game ever at home against a veteran of the world of indoor and arena football, the Iowa Barnstormers. How do you feel about that being the first game that you guys will play?
We think it's great to get such an iconic brand like the Barnstormers, 25 years in business. And, we're kind of on pins and needles, Richard, before the schedule came out. And, you never know if you're going to be on the road 4 weeks in a row or whatever. And when the schedule came out, we were so excited that we got the first few games at home, but the first game at home against Iowa, because even for the casual fan that doesn't know a lot about indoor pro football, a lot of them have heard the name Iowa Barnstormers because of, Kurt Warner, NFL Hall of Famer now. Mm-hmm. So it was great. We're pumped. The goggles will be landing at Oakland Airport and coming into the arena. We're pumped.
Yeah, and once again, I am talking to the head coach of the Oakland Panthers, Kurt Bryan. And, Coach, obviously, ownership is a huge part of this game at this level. And you guys, although a minority owner, have a pretty familiar name to the world of professional football in the ownership group, and that is Marshawn Lynch. How important has that been to assembling not only a team, but a front office, a fan base? I mean, I imagine that he is a man of the people and that it's really helped you guys out a lot.
Yeah, having Marshawn as a partner and co-owner in the team is enormous, for the sport, more importantly, humbly for the city of Oakland and football fans in the East Bay and the Bay Area, because Marshawn did not have to do this. He's got a great life. He's earned a great life. He did not have to get involved and put his name on something like a pro football franchise. So when he decided to go for it, that was a huge win for the East Bay, for the Bay Area, a big win for our franchise. And he's wonderful. He's involved. He supports the team. Obviously, the athletes are going to be reporting on February 25th. So I'm sure we're going to see him more. It's a win-win all the way across the board.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. In fact, that has been some of the talking points for myself when they'll ask me, hey, what do you think of Oakland? And I said, I think their head is definitely, and most importantly, their hearts are in the right place. You have a guy like Marshawn Lynch as, part of the ownership group, and they're using that to attract talent, because without the AFL and obviously first weekend of the XFL having done fairly well, in my opinion, I thought it was a great debut. You do worry about obviously things like the AAF, which happened to fold before the end of their first run last year. But, it's important to give players every opportunity that they can get to pursue their dreams and try to get to that next level, be it XFL, CFL, or, of course, the NFL. So I do love what you guys have done so far down there. Everything from ownership, front office, things I see on social media, the transactions and players. You guys are putting together a really good squad. How involved has he been as an owner? Do you have a relationship with him? Was he part of the process for picking front office, coaches? I mean, just how involved is Marshawn with you guys?
The good news is he's not absentee. He's involved when he wants to be. We had a really good meeting as he was considering getting on board. It was myself and Roy Choi and Scott and Marshawn and a couple of Marshawn's key people, Kevin Parker and Bryan Shang. And, that was a 3-hour meeting, and a lot was discussed, all important. Wasn't a lot of BS going on. And then ever since he decided to get involved, he was at the first ever tryout for the Oakland Panthers. That was a huge success. And he gave me some really good input on a couple of players that he thought might be able to help the Oakland Panthers. And obviously we have a Devontae Sapp Lynch on the team, Marshawn's younger brother, as one of our running backs. So Marshawn's been good, and sometimes it's good when he comes out and just kind of watches also and observes. So I expect more, again, once we hit training camp.
Yeah, Devontae Sapp Lynch was a lot of fun to watch last year. He made several appearances on my weekly top 10 plays for the IFL that I'll continue to do this season. I'm excited to see what the Oakland Panthers will produce to be featured on there as far as their first outing, and then, of course, throughout the season. Talking about players, though, you guys got my man Bryan Hicks. Every team needs a quarterback, and you guys got a good one. How was that signing for you guys, and what kind of process did you go through when you were looking for probably the most important position of a new franchise, and that's the quarterback?
Yeah, obviously we're going to carry two quarterbacks, and doing homework on the IFL after I got the job, then kind of diving in with Bryan, we were looking for three things. Number one is a great talent, of course, a great leader, and we don't have to babysit you off the field. And Bryan fits all three. He's got a gunslinger type of approach to playing the quarterback position. We just sent out the digital playbook to our offensive players. Bryan's already deep into the playbook with what we're going to do. And then as we evaluated him and then began the recruiting process, it was a long recruiting process. It wasn't one phone call and, hey, let's get married. This thing was a few months in the making. He's very bright. He was very cautious about who he decided to sign with for a couple of reasons. He'd been in some situations before outside of the IFL that were okay. And then obviously his experience with Green Bay was very good. He didn't care for the cold weather, and he only wanted to make a decision one more time in terms of where he wanted to play. And being only 25 years old, he wanted to make a decision that he could ride out, hopefully for the next several years before he transitions into coaching full time. He's also a good high school football coach during the fall.
Yeah, he is a Texas football product as far as where he was born and raised at, and he's got that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality, and he's good, which is a great plus, because you never know just how good a player is at this level, because a lot of these guys, they're on the wrong side of luck, but some of them, they have talent, but is it that, X factor talent that they're looking for in the CFL, NFL? And, he's been a great quarterback. I felt that some of his circumstances have been very unfortunate. I remember following him last year, keeping tabs on him, hey, saw that you're in New York. Oh, you're going to Orlando. Now you're in Columbus, and I felt so bad because he is a franchise quarterback and he could not find a franchise that would stick with him. And then, of course, a lot of these guys at this level will be part of expansion teams, and the experience can be very good or very bad. And so I knew when I talked to him and he had decided on Oakland, I said, I think this will be a good fit for you. If anything, you'll get a vacation out of it because he's not going to be in snowy Green Bay anymore. So he chuckled at that, and he's like, you know what? I agree. It's a destination team for sure, and I think it'll be good.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because one of your questions a little bit earlier was about building the Oakland franchise, and that's exactly the term that we use quite a bit. Is from day one, we want this to be a destination franchise for players, and our sales pitch, and we mean it from top to bottom, is with the ownership group, the front office, the support system, the coaching staff on and off the field. We're telling the players that we're signing that if you join the Oakland Panthers, it's going to serve as a launching pad for the rest of your life on and off the field. Because if these guys get hurt or it's time for them to step away from the game, there's a lot more to life than just football. And if you look at the coaching staff that we put together at the Oakland Panthers, we've got wildly successful businessmen off the field who are great coaches on the field, whether it's real estate investors, law enforcement, entrepreneurs, you name it, we've pretty much got it on our staff. And that's been a big selling point for guys like Bryan and others.
Yeah, I completely agree with these new expansion teams popping up in more ideal markets. And, my travels going to different teams and attending different matchups and games, I can tell you, firsthand that the fans in Green Bay are a very special fan base all on their own. Same with the flight crew in Iowa for the Barnstormers. They're a very special fan group as well. But then you start to see these teams pop up on the West Coast, down in Texas, even the Pacific Northwest, with Spokane getting a team back finally. It's been great to see some of these more well-known markets get teams, because now it kind of levels the playing field where a player doesn't have to look at the Midwest team and think about, where's my best chance to go and really make a difference and at the end of the day get that W. And of course, there's a lot of long history with Iowa, with Sioux Falls, with Green Bay. And then, of course, now you have these new teams that they're brand new, but look at where they're at and look at what they're trying to do right out the gate as far as recruiting, front office. So I think, again, what you guys have done, what I saw San Diego do from last year and now going into this season, I thought was really good with the kind of the makeover of the new logo. Of course, the Shock coming back, and then we get a new team from another league in Duke City, and now we've got Frisco added to the mix. I think it really makes up for a very competitive field in 2020.
It does, and with the defunct AFL, respectfully, when I was evaluating the IFL game, and obviously people have heard of arena football, it's kind of the first thing they go to if they don't know the difference. The IFL game, I believe, again, respectfully to the AFL, the IFL game is a lot more innovative. and it's got that run to pass ratio. It's got a nice balance, and people want something unique. They don't want to watch the same thing every week over and over. And now with, everybody recording shows, the one thing they really don't want to record and watch is live pro football, any sport for the most part. So I think the IFL is situated after its first 11 years, now going in its 12th year, in a perfect spot in terms of the athletes that are playing the game, the bigger markets, like you mentioned, which is going to draw larger audiences and broader fan bases, and then the talent level. The talent level in this league is insane. I mean, we've had 2 players already signed to the CFL off our roster, and we haven't even started training camp yet. So
put that in the brochure.
Yeah, exactly right. And then, of course, with the Germain family buying into the league and having 2 franchises, obviously with Columbus next year, this thing's only going to get bigger and more interesting.
Yes, it is a year that I think we will look back on and say, that's when everything really started to take off for the IFL, was 2020. And if you're lucky enough to witness it, if you're lucky enough to be a part of it, I think that this is really going to be a very special year. And going on into my 5th year of coverage of the IFL, I could tell you that there's been a few years where it looked like that might be the turning point for the IFL to go from a good league to a great league. And I really believe, that, those were kind of the warm-ups. This is the big debut, and it's going to be a really fun year, a really fun season. I'm glad that you guys are going to be a part of it. So what's your record going to be at the end of the season, Coach?
I'm not taking the bait on that one. But I will tell you this. Our players and coaches and front office and everybody, we work so hard just like all the other people in the league. Our goal is to win every game, every time we suit up and hit the field. That's our goal. So I can tell you that our record will be, for the regular season, will be as high as 14-0. And anything less than that, obviously, we'll have to settle for. But we're trying to win every game. We'll see what actually happens, though.
I love that mentality. I've loved this conversation, Coach, and I can't thank you enough for your time. It's really been great, and I'm glad that we could get you on here. So thank you so much again, and best of luck this season.
Thank you so much, Richard. Love the show. Keep it up. Keep supporting the IFL.
Will do. And one more time, ladies and gentlemen, he is the head coach of your new Oakland Panthers, making their debut against the Iowa Barnstormers March 14th. You will not want to miss it. Coach, you have a great rest of your night. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot, Richard.
And one more big thank you to Coach Kurt Bryan for making his fan show debut. And, the Panthers, like I said, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the new teams in the IFL. We welcome the Duke City Gladiators. We welcome the Duke City Gladiators from the CIF. We obviously have expansion teams in Frisco, the Frisco Fighters, the Oakland Panthers, and then we welcome back the Spokane Shock. First time in the IFL, but of course, a very familiar name in the world of indoor and arena football. So it's great to have those teams, and I think it really makes for just a very competitive field. Been talking about it, all lead up to the season, from the time that the last team was announced for Frisco and the coaching announcements and the player signings. And I truly believe that we will see that this season. Going to be very, very tough to get a perfect season. It really will be. Like I said a couple of episodes ago, I don't think that this year's champion will have less than 3 losses. I don't. I think it's going to be a 3-loss team, 3 or 4 even. But I'll have to check the schedule again. I mean, there could be. There really could be. It depends on what teams play who, how many times. You just hope that nobody doesn't win any games. And then you'd like to see not all teams win every single game. You just want the home teams to win the home games, right? And then at the end of it, you'll have your playoff, and then you will have your championship. And we'll crown a champion. See who that might be. Don't forget to give us a like, give us some love, give us a follow. a listen. Anything and everything helps the Fan Show, of course. We're at, I think, 76 subscribers on the YouTube channel. For those of you that may or may not know, we have a YouTube channel. I'd love to hit 100. Think we can get that done over the weekend? That'd be great. So there's links all over the place for the YouTube channel, but if you just search The Fan Show, you should be able to find it. Like us on Facebook. Hopefully you're watching on the Facebook Live and you already have. But if you haven't yet, do so now. It's facebook.com/fanshowofficial. Follow us on Twitter @fanshowofficial and give the music division some love. This is kind of their thing, the Super Bowl of all things rock and roll. That's @fanshow_music. And then you can follow the Instagram, which is The Fan Show. That one was actually available, The Fan Show. Everything else was taken for other social media. So we had to settle for Fan Show Official. But it makes for a great tagline that now we end the show that way. So don't forget to check out Undisputed Belts for your belt needs, and then Dynamite Enterprises for other. They are great partners, proud sponsors and partners of the Fan Show. So remember, it's not official unless it's Fan Show Official, and we are officially out of here. Happy Valentine's Day to those of you that celebrate it, but others that maybe want to try un-Valentine's Day, give it a try. You might like it. So until next time, brand new episode Tuesday, same time, same place. Best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks!
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.